Defining othering. Othering is a sociological concept that describes the process by which individuals or groups are distinguished, marginalized, and often dehumanized based on perceived differences. These differences can be rooted in race, ethnicity, religion, gender, socioeconomic status, or any other characteristic that marks a group as distinct from a dominant or privileged group. Othering is a powerful psychological and social mechanism that reinforces division, fosters discrimination, and sustains power imbalances within societies. Origins and theoretical foundations. The concept of othering has deep roots in philosophy, psychology, and sociology. Thinkers like Hegel and Sartre examined the notion of the other in existential philosophy, positing that identity is often defined in contrast to what it is not. Post-colonial theorists, such as Edward Said, introduced the term in his book Orientalism, where he analyzed how the West constructed the East as an inferior other to justify colonialism. Judith Butler, in Gender Studies, expanded the idea of othering to discuss the exclusion of marginalized identities, particularly in relation to queer and feminist theory. The psychology of othering. At its core, othering stems from the human brain's natural tendency to categorize. Cognitive psychology suggests that our brains simplify the world by creating in-groups and out-groups, a phenomenon linked to evolutionary survival mechanisms. However, while categorization itself is not inherently harmful, the problem arises when value judgments are assigned to these distinctions, leading to prejudice, bias, and stereotyping. Social identity theory, proposed by Henri Teifel, explains how people enhance their self-esteem by identifying with their group while devaluing others, reinforcing othering on both an individual and collective level. The psychology behind othering. Othering is deeply rooted in human psychology and is often a result of cognitive biases, social conditioning, and the innate need for belonging. From an evolutionary standpoint, humans have relied on group cohesion for survival, which has contributed to an us versus them mentality. This tendency to categorize people into in-groups and out-groups is a fundamental aspect of social identity theory, which explains why individuals derive part of their self-concept from the groups to which they belong. Why do people engage in othering? Cognitive simplification. The human brain tends to categorize information to process it efficiently. This mental shortcut often leads to stereotyping and oversimplifying complex identities, reinforcing othering. Fear and uncertainty. People often other those they perceive as different due to fear of the unknown. This is particularly evident during times of social or economic instability when individuals seek scapegoats to attribute blame. Social conditioning. Cultural narratives, education, and media shape perspectives from a young age, often reinforcing biases that contribute to othering. Power and control. Othering is sometimes used as a tool to maintain social hierarchies, allowing dominant groups to justify discrimination and inequality. Emotional protection. Some individuals other others as a defense mechanism to protect their self-esteem or avoid confronting their own insecurities and biases. Scenarios where othering occurs more frequently. Times of crisis. During economic downturns, pandemics, or political turmoil, societies often search for outsiders to blame. Competitive environments. In workplaces or academic settings, othering can emerge as a strategy to establish superiority or preserve limited opportunities. Social and cultural shifts. When traditional norms are challenged by evolving perspectives, Those resistant to change may engage in othering as a form of pushback. Group identity formation. Social groups often other outsiders to reinforce internal cohesion and maintain a shared sense of identity. Othering within families. Othering is not limited to external groups, it also occurs within families. This may manifest through favoritism, scapegoating, or exclusion of family members who diverge from expected norms. For example, parents may unconsciously favor one child over another, causing feelings of alienation. Family members who challenge traditions or values may be othered and excluded from important conversations or decisions. Sibling rivalries can sometimes lead to the perception that one sibling is an outsider within the family dynamic. Othering among friends. Within friendships, othering can emerge subtly through exclusion, gossip, or social hierarchies. Common scenarios include groups forming cliques and excluding individuals based on differences in interests or backgrounds. Friends distancing themselves from someone undergoing personal transformation, such as a lifestyle change or differing political beliefs. Individuals feeling pressured to conform to group norms to avoid being othered themselves. Othering in the workplace. The professional environment presents many opportunities for othering, which can impact productivity, morale, and inclusivity. Examples include bias in hiring and promotion. Candidates from marginalized groups may be othered due to unconscious biases. Exclusion from workplace culture. Employees who do not fit the dominant culture may feel alienated or overlooked. Microaggressions. Subtle acts of othering, such as ignoring someone's input in meetings or making assumptions about their abilities based on stereotypes. Workplace cliques. Employees forming exclusive social groups can make others feel like outsiders, affecting collaboration and job satisfaction. Understanding the psychological roots of othering allows individuals and organizations to take proactive steps in reducing its impact. By recognizing when and where othering occurs, people can challenge biases, foster inclusivity, and create environments that embrace diversity rather than reinforce division. Whether in families, friendships, or the workplace, awareness and intentional action can help dismantle the barriers that othering creates. Othering in history. Historically, othering has been at the heart of numerous atrocities, including slavery, colonization, genocide, and apartheid. The transatlantic slave trade, for instance, relied on the systematic dehumanization of African people, portraying them as less than human to justify their subjugation. Similarly, Nazi ideology othered Jewish, Roma, and other marginalized communities, using propaganda to depict them as threats to the purity of German society. Throughout history, political leaders have exploited othering to consolidate power, often using fear-mongering tactics to turn one group against another. Othering in modern society. Although societies have progressed in many ways, othering remains pervasive in modern times. It manifests in systemic racism, xenophobia, religious intolerance, sexism, ableism, and homophobia. In politics, divisive rhetoric is frequently used to pit groups against one another, with leaders portraying immigrants, refugees, or racial minorities as scapegoats for societal problems. The digital age has amplified othering, with social media creating echo chambers that reinforce stereotypes and spread misinformation about marginalized groups. The role of media in othering. Media plays a crucial role in shaping perceptions and consequently reinforcing or challenging othering. Historically, Western media has portrayed non-Western cultures through a Eurocentric lens, often emphasizing stereotypes that depict them as exotic, dangerous, or primitive. News coverage can contribute to othering by disproportionately reporting crimes committed by certain racial or religious groups, fueling fear and bias. Hollywood and entertainment industries have also been criticized for perpetuating tropes that reinforce othering, such as the portrayal of Arabs as terrorists or the erasure of indigenous narratives. Structural and institutional othering. Beyond interpersonal dynamics, othering is embedded within societal structures and institutions. Systemic racism, for example, is an institutionalized form of othering that disproportionately affects marginalized communities in education, healthcare, housing, and employment. Policies such as redlining, discriminatory hiring practices, and voter suppression laws are historical and contemporary examples of structural othering. The criminal justice system, with its racial profiling and disproportionate incarceration rates for people of color, is another example of institutionalized othering that perpetuates inequality. Othering and intersectionality. Intersectionality, a term coined by Kimberlé Crenshaw, highlights how multiple forms of othering can overlap and compound oppression. For example, a Black woman may experience discrimination not only due to her race, but also her gender, creating a unique set of challenges distinct from those faced by white women or Black men. Understanding intersectionality is crucial in addressing othering comprehensively, as it reveals how different forms of discrimination are interconnected and cannot be examined in isolation. Othering in international relations. On a global scale, othering influences international politics and conflicts. Nations often other rival countries to justify war, economic sanctions, or military interventions. During the Cold War, the US and the Soviet Union othered each other by portraying their respective ideologies as existential threats. More recently, anti-Muslim rhetoric post-9/11 fueled policies such as travel bans and heightened surveillance, reinforcing the perception of Muslims as the other and contributing to Islamophobia. The consequences of othering. The effects of othering are far-reaching, leading to social fragmentation, increased prejudice, and mental health struggles for marginalized individuals. Othering fosters alienation, reducing empathy, and creating hostile environments. It can also contribute to self-fulfilling prophecies, where marginalized groups internalize negative stereotypes, limiting their opportunities and self-worth. On a societal level, othering prevents social cohesion and collaboration, exacerbating divisions that hinder progress and unity. Challenging and dismantling othering. To combat othering, it is essential to foster empathy, education, and inclusive policies. One approach is perspective-taking, where individuals actively seek to understand the experiences of others. Schools and workplaces can implement diversity and inclusion initiatives to challenge biases and promote representation. Media and entertainment industries have a responsibility to portray diverse narratives that counter stereotypes. On a systemic level, policy changes addressing economic and social inequalities can help dismantle institutionalized othering. The power of language in overcoming othering. Language plays a crucial role in shaping perceptions. Dehumanizing language reinforces othering, while inclusive language fosters belonging. Terminology matters. For example, referring to undocumented immigrants as illegal aliens perpetuates their othering, whereas undocumented workers acknowledges their humanity. Shifting narratives to center marginalized voices and experiences is key to breaking the cycle of othering. Moving toward a more inclusive society. Ultimately, overcoming othering requires a collective effort to challenge ingrained biases, foster understanding, and promote equitable policies. Recognizing our shared humanity is fundamental in dismantling divisions and building a more inclusive and just society. By acknowledging and addressing othering in its many forms, we can work toward a world where differences are celebrated rather than feared, and where every individual is valued and respected. Further steps for individuals and communities. Beyond systemic change, individuals can take personal steps to counteract othering. Engaging in open dialogues, reading diverse perspectives, and challenging one's own biases are key strategies. Communities can foster inclusivity by creating spaces for underrepresented voices, supporting policies that promote equity, and actively resisting divisive narratives. Education remains a powerful tool in unlearning othering, empowering individuals to question inherited prejudices and adopt a mindset of interconnectedness and mutual respect. How we other ourselves. While othering is often discussed in the context of societal divisions and external discrimination, it is equally important to recognize that we can other ourselves. This form of self-othering occurs when we disconnect from parts of our identity, internalize negative societal narratives, or create divisions within our own sense of self. It manifests in various ways, including self-doubt, imposter syndrome, internalized oppression, and self-rejection. Internalized oppression and self-othering. One of the most insidious ways people other themselves is through internalized oppression. When individuals from marginalized groups absorb societal prejudices and negative stereotypes about their identity, they may unconsciously devalue themselves. For example, a person of color, growing up in a predominantly white society, may struggle with feelings of inadequacy due to racial biases they have internalized. Similarly, women who have been conditioned to believe that leadership is a masculine trait may hesitate to pursue positions of power. Imposter syndrome and the fragmentation of self. Imposter syndrome is another form of self-othering, where individuals feel like they do not truly belong or deserve their accomplishments. Despite evidence of their competence, they perceive themselves as frauds, attributing success to luck rather than ability. This disconnect between their self-perception and reality creates an internal divide, reinforcing the sense that they are an other even within spaces where they have rightfully earned their place. Self-rejection and the fear of authenticity. People often other themselves by rejecting aspects of their identity that they fear will not be accepted by others. This is particularly common among individuals who belong to marginalized communities, such as LGBTQ+ individuals who suppress their identities due to societal stigma. Self-othering can also occur when people deny their emotions, suppress creativity, or conform to societal expectations at the expense of their true selves. The fear of being seen as different can lead to an internal struggle where one creates a false persona to fit in, while distancing themselves from their authentic identity. Cultural and familial expectations in self-othering. Family and cultural expectations can contribute to self-othering, especially when individuals feel pressured to conform to traditional roles or suppress aspects of their individuality. Someone raised in a conservative household may experience guilt or shame if their values or lifestyle do not align with their upbringing. This creates an internal rift where a person feels torn between personal growth and a need to belong within their family or cultural framework. Healing from self-othering. Overcoming self-othering requires self-awareness, self-compassion, and intentional efforts to embrace one's full identity. Engaging in self-reflection, therapy, and mindfulness can help individuals recognize and challenge internalized biases. Affirmations, journaling, and connecting with supportive communities can aid in reclaiming authenticity and self-worth. Ultimately, dismantling self-othering is about embracing one's wholeness, honoring every part of oneself, and rejecting narratives that seek to divide and diminish personal identity. Integrating the self. Recognizing and addressing self-othering is crucial for personal growth and well-being. By identifying the ways in which we separate from our own identities, we can begin to heal and integrate all aspects of ourselves. This process of self-acceptance not only strengthens individual confidence, but also fosters greater empathy and connection with others, as we learn to extend the same compassion to ourselves that we seek to offer the world. 10 daily practices to recognize and reduce the negative effects of othering. 1. Practice self-reflection. Spend time each day examining your thoughts and behaviors. Ask yourself if you have unintentionally othered someone or if you hold biases that need addressing. 2. Engage in active listening. When interacting with others, focus on truly understanding their experiences and perspectives without judgment or immediate reaction. 3. Challenge stereotypes and assumptions. Whenever you notice yourself making a broad generalization about a group or individual, pause and question its validity. 4. Diversify your interactions. Make an effort to engage with people from different backgrounds, cultures, and perspectives to expand your understanding and challenge biases. 5. Cultivate empathy. Put yourself in others' shoes, imagining their struggles and emotions to foster deeper compassion and reduce divisions. 6. Educate yourself continually. Read books, watch documentaries, and follow discussions about social identity, inclusion, and systemic biases to deepen your awareness. 7. Use inclusive language. Be mindful of the words you use, ensuring they are respectful and affirming rather than reinforcing stereotypes or marginalization. 8. Call out and address othering behaviors. When you witness exclusion, discrimination, or prejudiced remarks, speak up in a constructive and respectful manner. 9. Reflect on self-othering. Notice any ways you may be othering yourself through self-doubt, internalized biases, or self-rejection, and practice self-compassion. 10. Promote belonging. Actively create inclusive environments where others feel valued, heard, and respected, whether in the workplace, social settings, or within personal relationships. Thank you for spending time here at the International World Wisdom Well and learning from this carefully curated teaching audiobook. Cultivating global happiness, well-being, and compassionate wisdom, inside and out, together, exploring and realizing the limitless potential of humanity through the evolving energies of collective experiences, lifelong learning, rigorous research, and dedicated daily practice. Enjoy your journey through these audio teachings. Quench your thirst for knowledge. Nourish body, mind, and spirit. Embody deep introspection, fostering a healing evolution within ourselves and our global human family. Join us in our mission to enhance the world while nurturing inner wisdom, one drop at a time. This is a gift from our hearts to yours. Share with those who may benefit. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Please enjoy a visit to www.worldwisdomwell.com and spend some time with our collection of well-being resources.